people like to believe what they want to believe. Some believe there was no plane crash. Others believe Netaji was killed by the communists in Russia. Some others trust he was back to India in the guise of a sadhu and lived for another 40 years. And there are yet others who are convinced that Netaji is alive and in a land called Ganganj. In the same tune, it has become an established belief that to escape from the approaching Allied forces, Netaji decided to fly out of Singapore and take refuge in the Soviet Union. No, Netaji was not such an escapist. He had tangible plans, if only. And why would he, in the first instance, choose to go further away in Soviet Russia? Russian analyst V. Todzev wrote in 1993, was Bose eager to get into Soviet jail? Was he so naive? Netaji was in continuous cordial relationship with both Germany and Italy, even after knowing about extermination camps and gas chambers in Europe, the sufferings and tortures of people, about genocide of Ukrainians, Belarusians, Jews and Russians. So, could Netaji expect a warm welcome awaiting him in the USSR? Netaji's nephew, Professor Dwarkanath Bose, who had visited the archives in Russia along with the Mukherjee Commission of Inquiry, highlighted Russia's aversion to Bose. He narrates, Subhas was eager to visit the Soviet Union as he was an admirer of the Soviet planning. However, he was never granted a visa for the purpose. Jawaharlal Nehru had gone to the Soviet Union earlier with his father and so had to go. So why this aversion to Bose? It may be traced to his speech as President Trade Union Congress in 1928, when he had said, among other things, the Communist Party of India has done great damage to the trade union movement. They take instructions from Russia, etc. Even when he obtained a Soviet visa from Afghanistan in 1941, after his escape and was eager to get Soviet assistance, he was kept at arm's length during his 2-week stay in Moscow in March 41 and never met anyone of consequence. Instead, he was put on a flight to Berlin. On 20th November 1944, while camping at the Imperial Hotel Tokyo, Netaji has sent an appeal to the Soviet ambassador in Japan, Y. Malik, seeking Soviet support in India's struggle for independence. This letter was passed on to NKVD, a forerunner of the KGB, on 3rd January 1945. The appeal failed. Earlier in the year 1945, Netaji received Mussolini's acknowledgement of his New Year's greetings. And on 13th May 1945, German embassy acknowledged the sympathy expressed by him on Hitler's death. They wished him success. And just a few months later, in August 1945, could Netaji be so wrong in choosing Soviet Russia instead of some place in Assam or Bengal? The Russian view of Netaji those days, narrated by the analyst V.K. Todzev, was that Bose was an MI6 agent, not in the sense of paid functionary, but active as a mole in the Axis camp. Soviet journalist David Zaslavsky, in an article published in Pravda way back on 7th January 1946, characterized Bose as a fascist rogue on Hitlerite pay, in the pay of the Japanese imperialists, etc. In short, Bose was not trustworthy. Record shows that during the war, there is no indication that Netaji was welcome in Russia, and Netaji knew it. Pan too disapproved Netaji's plan to shift to Soviet Russia. A request was made to the Japanese government in May 1945 end whether they will be in a position to extend facilities to Netaji and some of his associates to go to the USSR. Tokyo flatly refused Netaji's request. Instead, they asked him to continue his fight for liberation in the spirit of live or die together. The Japanese government replied in the middle of June. They stated very curtly that they are convinced of Nippon's certain victory in spite of the present unfavorable situation. The government more than ever earnestly hopes that Your Excellency will push on fighting for the liberation of India with firm decision to display the spirit of live or die together by India and Nippon. After retreating from Burma, Netaji began to think of new moves. On 1st May, German radio announced Hitler's death. By then, Japan had already faced a colossal defeat in the Philippines waters. All these made it evident to him that the war at the Eastern Hemisphere is coming to its logical end. He sat down with his inner council of the cabinet on 17th May at Bangkok, which was then the headquarters. He discussed the future plan threadbare. He planned for a post-war revolutionary program for the independence of India. Devnath Das, General Secretary of the IIL, Bangkok, remained the closest to him during this period onwards. Anticipating the whole of East and Southeast Asia coming under the occupation of the Anglo-American forces, Netaji programmed to switch over to underground activity operating from Indian soil. Directives were issued to the armed forces of the INA and also to the combatant and non-combatant forces of the IIL to move towards India in order to play the revolutionary role, culminating in an armed revolution to free India. Details of approach was developed and plans chalked out to contact Indian forces working under the British flag. Some of the men were sent to Sitang, East Central Burma, in order to contact the British Indian soldiers when they come to Rangoon as part of the occupation forces and try to convert them to INA idea and fight for India's independence. Knowing that cessation of hostilities will result in mass-scale demobilization in the British Army, a section of the INA and IIL men were identified to approach the demobbed officers and men of the army. Another set was identified to contact the workers in wartime industries, whose services would be dispensed with consequent on the cessation of British imperialist needs. Additionally, another set was to meet the peasants who suffered during the war, and of course, the political workers who were to be contacted, especially those having a leftist tendency. Netaji himself was to return to Indian soil. It was decided that he would be dropped somewhere in Assam or Bengal. In case that is not possible directly from Southeast Asia, then an alternative plan was to be effected. That is, Netaji to proceed to China, preferably to Yunnan, headquarters of Mao Zedong, near the border of Burma for the time being. According to Captain K. Kunizuka, who was an intelligence officer liaising at Bangkok, Netaji drew up a plan in consultation with local Japanese officers to move his headquarters to a place called Chokako in North China. His intention was to transport all INA units through French Indochina to North China, near the Mongolian border, which was still under the Japanese control. This area was very near to the Russian side, and the Chinese Red Forces were fighting in the neighboring area. The communication and transport were entirely in the hands of the Japanese military authorities. This happened to be the most important handicap for the INA. For operating part of the plans, the desired movements needed to be communicated to the Japanese military authorities through the Hikari Kikan. Kikan meaning the liaison agency. Netaji then inquired about the position of INA pockets and instructed to form more pockets all over the area from Bangkok to Molome in the east and from Bangkok to Hanoi on the west. In case all the previously mentioned three plans failed, he would be compelled to choose some place in Southeast Asia to remain underground for some time. He also asked to prepare small cells consisting of Indians all along the route, as there were Indians in almost every village, town and city.